G'day Cobbers, Pan here and welcome back to Lake of Voices. It has been, I don't know, nearly 2 weeks since I uploaded another video. I had family come over, my camera broke, all sorts of good things happened. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get another camera, so you're going to have to watch me play, if at all, without seeing my ugly mug. So we were at this one when we finished last, and apparently our progress continues steadily and we still encounter no significant difficulties, being with Bemelle and the guide, and we're halfway through the second night, so by the time we get to the morning we should be at our locale and everything's cool, hopefully. So let's just finish this story off so we can put it to bed, maybe drown it, maybe do something, I don't know. Let's have a look.
How much longer until we reach the other side? We have traveled quite a ways.
Bemelle's quiet-breaking question doesn't sound particularly enthused. No.
It should only be another couple of hours.
Bemelle is unconvinced. It is not only I who notices. The guide suddenly stops. Eerily, he turns his head to the side and looks back at us.
Is there a problem with that?
There is, yes. I keep looking at the camera and it's broken.
Is there?
We progress through the bridges at a much quicker clip this time. Bemelle's question was not idle curiosity. He was confirming that fact for himself. I should have known. The guide looks to be slightly irritated over the attitude Bemelle has taken.
If you have something to say, you should say it. Unless you're afraid that I'm going to leave you behind.
His statement lands heavily on us. Did he listen to our conversation? There were no sounds to cover our voices. However, I had assumed we were far enough away from the guide to keep our words to ourselves. He stares with such an icy expression I nearly freeze in place. Bemelle, on the other hand, heats up and grows more hostile. He leaves my side to rush into the guide's flickering light.
Don't.
This is going much too far. I urge him to come back. He ignores me and takes a stand facing the guide.
Am I right? Are you going to leave us behind after what I've done?
The guide isn't bothered at all by Bemelle entering his space. He gives a level answer.
No.
Seems like I need to have a deeper voice when I'm reading this back. No. Yeah, fuck, I can't do a deep voice.
Well, that's grand. In that case, I'd like to know if I'm on the right track about something else. Are the monsters missing because they've already eaten? Or is there some other reason why they've all mysteriously vanished?
The guide pauses for a moment. His eyes close and he becomes completely still.
It's possible.
Bemelle glares at the guide over the admittance. It's as though he heard nothing after the first line the guide spoke. The guide is unfazed.
If you enter these bridges, all you should expect is death. That is no secret. You need to stop putting so much energy into finding meaning, or else you will end up like the others.
Bemelle ends up speechless, caught off guard by the guide openly discussing his accusation. The guide continues at Bemelle's silence, annoyance leaking into his voice.
You think that the results would have been different if only I had said more or did something differently. But that is not true. The conclusion would be exactly the same. If Lou hadn't died when he did, he would have been lost at some other point during the trip.
Who the fuck's Lou? There's only fucking 3 of us that started, and when there was that crazy little young dude.
Lou?
Yeah, Lou. Who the fuck?
Yes, Lou was his name. I had spoken with him in the past. He wanted to cross the bridges. I had deemed him unfit. He was far too desperate and unprepared. There's no helping someone like that.
The guide sounds even more agitated as he elaborates. Bemelle seems to be finished with being surprised. His anger reignites.
If that's all well and true, why haven't you died yet? How is it that you've been able to cross these horrendous bridges over and over again without suffering the same consequences as everyone else?
Yeah! The guide's face twists into a vicious snarl. He shouts,
I have died.
Okay?
I have no life to give. Everything I am, everything I could have been, was surrendered to this lake. That is the only reason why I'm able to stand before you now.
Right.
I can show you the way, and I can give you advice on how to survive the perils you will face. That is all I'm able to offer. Is that not enough for you? What else do you want from me? Kindness? Sympathy? It's been far too many years since I was capable of giving anything like that.
Yeah, you tell him. He finally stops to catch his breath, though the emotion in his eyes still shines intently. There is no response from either of us. An agonizing silence permeates the air. No one dares to even move. The tension is cut as the boards beneath me start to creak. My eyes dart down. The bridge is sinking rapidly. Instinctively I jump backwards, but the new section of the bridge groans horribly as it too starts to tilt into the water. They keep getting further and further away with each disappearing platform I move off of.
Kika!
I look up at Bemelle's cool. My chest tightens when I see him and the guide on what has become the other side of a small chasm. I leap back just in time as the bridge under me snaps like a twig. Glancing over again, they keep getting farther and farther away with each disappearing platform I move off of. Dread creeps up my neck and I nearly lose my footing once I realize what's happening. Desperately stumbling backwards, I finally manage to regain my balance. I use this to leap far enough back that the bridge I land on doesn't immediately start to fall apart under my weight. In another 3 swift steps I am finally on sturdy wood. The bridges reluctantly stop shifting and settle. The only trace left of what was once a huge section of bridge is a few splintered boards floating in the murky water. The lake consumed it somehow. I am not surprised. Regaining my bearings, I face what has become my circumstance. I am now separated from Bemelle and the guide by a far wider gorge than anyone could leap. My throat goes bone dry as I teeter at the edge of the bridge, mind wildly scrambling for a solution that doesn't come. I lock onto Bemelle's face. He's completely aghast, darting from one side of the bridge to the other like a panicked animal. There's no mistaking that he's desperate to help me in some way. However, there's also no mistaking that there aren't any options available to him. He turns to the guide with pleading eyes, all his earlier hostilities sunken with the bridges. I am too far off to grasp what Bemelle is asking, but I get the impression he's seeing if there is another way. The guide turns to me. He's completely cooled down from his earlier interaction, back to his same placid expression. He focuses back on Bemelle, who has now gripped him by the cloak. The guide says one word. Judging from the look of pure terror on Bemelle's face, I can only assume it was no. There is no way back. The guide frees himself from Bemelle's grasp and continues speaking. Bemelle still seems horribly shaken at his words. I can barely see from here, but I think he's quivering. As I watch the two discuss my fate, unable to say anything, fear starts to crawl over me. My arms run cool to cold to freezing. It's not long before the rest of my body follows. I notice Bemelle cover his face with his still shuddering hand. The guide's voice echoes loudly across the water, separating me from them.
Go back and take the next bridge you come across that goes west. There may be enough time for you to find your own way.
I blink, taken aback for a moment, before I quickly regain my composure. That's right, this isn't over. I still have my lantern with me. The prowlers are less active, and if the guide says that it's possible, it could be true. I nod solemnly at his words and yell back,
I'll meet you there! Don't wait for me!
He bows his head and starts to slowly back away from the edge. Bemelle pulls his head from his hands to look at me. Even across the water I can tell that he's crying. I smile forlornly at him as the wind whips against my back. I speak softly.
You need to go.
There is no way he could have heard me, yet I'm confident that the sentiment got across. I spare a brief glance behind me, however there's no trace of them in even the dead end I was stranded at. With a painful contracting of my heart, I realize that I'm truly alone now. Quickly I shake off the thought and refocus my attention on what's in front of me. The first branching of the path comes into reach. I slow down to a calmer pace and begin my progress down the western bridge. It would be reckless to consider going against the guide's directions. I walk at a moderately brisk pace, not wanting to risk tripping or running out of energy in a moment where I need it. If the eeriness of the lake was disconcerting before, now it's overwhelming. The blizzard-like fog drifting over the waters limits my vision to the span of my arms. The utter silence was a comfort, despite how otherworldly it felt, but the whispering of the lake has started to stir now. I gulp despite myself. They've noticed me. As their chattering grows, I can consider briefly if the others hear them as well, or if they have come out specifically because I'm on my own. I straighten my back and walk more surely. I cannot let them believe I am an easy target. I even consider keeping my sword in hand, but it doesn't seem entirely likely they would realize it's something that could hurt them. To keep my mind from wandering in the dark places, I count my steps like we used to in training. Despite my best efforts, things are starting to get to me. My worries wash over me, causing painful twinges underneath my clothes that make me jerk and twitch like a fly-bitten horse. The whispering inhuman voices, the feeling of vulnerability, the horrible thought of being helplessly lost all melded together and consuming me. All melded together is consuming me. Break the tension. My pace breaks from the steady rhythm of my counting set. It quickens more as I start to succumb to fear. My brisk step turns into long, frantic strides. Something in me whispers, faster, go faster, don't let them catch you. And I listen. I break into a run, like moving on landmines. Flashes of fear explode in my mind and drive my feet harder, faster, stronger along the path. Until suddenly my sense of reason returns and I stop dead. My chest rises and falls with deep, heaving breaths as I try to calm myself down. The monster erupts into an inharmonious chorus of what sounds to be wicked laughs. I fight the urge to shout back at the creatures. This feels like a nightmare I'll never wake up from. I take another breath and resume my measured progress. Even after the first crossroads, I continue with the guide's simple direction. Keeping west every chance I get, I have no other hint for this labyrinth. It's difficult to tell how much time has passed. It must be at least an hour, judging by how much energy I've expelled. Since I recomposed myself, I have not stopped walking for a second. Despite how much time has worn on, the route still feels like an endless abyss. Then I hear a noise which causes a shuddering chill to creep down my spine. An uneven clicking followed by a squelching sound. It's a prowler. I immediately turn to look behind me. There's nothing. I breathe out, relieved. My ears search for the source of the noise, but with all the babble the Nixie are making, the direction is clouded. I strain my ears. That's it. The noise is drifting slowly from one of the connecting paths up ahead. I can faintly tell the noise is drawing nearer. The prowler has not arrived yet, but soon its path will intercept my own. I will not wait for it to reveal itself, leaving me two options. I can run past the bridge connecting to get ahead of it, or turn back and find a new path to take. Uh-oh, I have faith that following the same path I've been is for the best. I steel myself and build up speed. Well, my broken mouse just decided to double click. I get closer and closer to the branch with a lurking threat and pick up my pace so I'm sprinting. I hear a gurgling hiss as I pass through the crossroad. It must have been close enough to be pained by the light. I barely made it. However, I didn't hear any splash. It is still nearby. I look behind me to see if it at least decided to come no further. Horrified, I realize that it's pointedly following me. It is no longer mindlessly dragging itself through blackness. I have become its target. Its limbs bend wildly and unnaturally. It looks as though it's only barely keeping itself upright as its torso wobbles on its hips. That isn't stopping it from giving chase. I focus my view back ahead and continue to run. My breathing rapidly becomes ragged. I can still hear the squishing footsteps of the prowler behind me as it lunges its body forward into that unnatural gait. Without warning, the bridge lurches to one side. Catching me completely off guard, I lose my footing and slam into the damp surface of the bridge. My light falls with me, painfully snuffing out. Splashes and the excited stirring of many voices come from the lake. How? Why? Is it rotting, or did they push the support beams? I'm left with no time to ponder the mystery as the monster draws near. I scramble back onto my feet as it closes in. Grabbing my dark lantern, I resume running to put some space between us. I open the latch of the lantern and pull out a match. I have to slow down, at least briefly, to properly light the flame without it blowing out. With death still on my heels, I must not let one precious moment be wasted. Set on my plan and with everything in hand, I begin to decrease my pace. Moving as fast as I am capable, I light a match inside the lantern and the oil catches fire. As the flame grows, I can hear the awful footsteps behind me begin to peter out. I steal a glance behind me. It has truly stopped. The return of light seems to catch it off guard, and thankfully it declines to come closer. It declines coming closer. I manage to calm my mind down from the commotion and recall what the guide said when we first encountered a prowler. You don't have to run or fight, you only need to keep moving while keeping an eye on it. I can't keep running on forever, and do so only seem to invigorate them further. I fix my stare on it forcefully as the creature recoils from my lit lantern. Moving at a steady but brisk pace, I continue forward, making sure to check behind me often. It creeps at a distance, however the thing makes no more dramatic attempts to engage with me, choosing only to lurk. I'm set on edge by its presence, but in a way it's strangely beneficial. It makes it harder to get lost within my own mind when the tension in the air is so high. Reaffirming my goals, I go down the bridge after bridge, making my way to what I can only hope is the way out. Eventually, the prowler halts at the precipice of one of the branches. Frustrated, it paces back and forth on the border as though something is physically stopping it from going further. The journey of mine returns to one of isolation. Even the whispers of sinless have ceased. And did I skip another page? I need a new fucking mouse. Suddenly, I realize through the fog, the black sky is turning dark blue. Dawn is beginning to rise. At this point, there's no use in keeping up my strength. I sprint down the bridge, going faster and faster as I hold out some sort of sign. Anything. Eventually, I receive one. The silhouette of land peeks into my field of vision. I can scarcely believe it as I blink away the tears. With renewed spirit, I press down the bridge with increased speed, desperately trying to outpace the sun. The glowing orb peeks into view against the obscure sky and begins to ascend unfeelingly. With each step, the sky brightens ever so slightly more. I race through the oppressive fog and there's a voice in the distance. It isn't the horrifying sound of monsters looming. It's Bemelle. He's calling out for me. I shout back to him through the dark, foggy void. My voice comes out as a horrible, weak wheeze between deep, shaky breaths. I'm almost certain that he couldn't hear me. I'm not bothered by that, however. I will find him. I'm coming, Bemelle. Please, just wait for me. I keep running against the increasing light and the figure comes into view, here on the bridge. Bemelle races towards me at high speed and doesn't slow down when he gets near. He grabs hold of my side and supports my dripping frame as I slowly to a stop. I barely choke out a sentence as I strain to catch my breath.
Why are you here?
I was looking for you, of course. I knew you had to be nearby. You had to be. Don't worry over it. I wasn't reckless enough to go in the dark. I waited until there was some sun and stayed on one path.
He grins at his own planning skills. I grow cross at his risky behaviour.
The bridges could have sunk.
Despite the admonishment, I'm terribly relieved to see him again.
You are free to give me a proper lecture some other time. Right now, I'd say it's time for us to get out of this damned place. Are you still able to run?
I put all my weight back onto my feet and nod at him confidently, though my legs still lightly quake beneath me.
Don't worry, we're nearly there.
And did I skip another fucking page? I provide a battered smile in return. The two of us tear across the bridges in the direction Bemelle points out, and just as he promised, the end comes into view. Against all the odds, we both make it. I nearly tumble off the bridge onto solid ground. I crouch on the ground and lay my head between my legs, unable to stand. I rest there quietly for a few moments, taking time to allow my breathing and emotion to settle down. Finally, I look up from my lap and see Bemelle standing ahead of me. Both of our eyes are flowing with tears. Bemelle walks over and sits down in the dirt nearby. He gazes deeply into my eyes and with a gentle smile gracing his lips. No words need to be exchanged between us to know what the other is thinking. I'm glad for it because I'm not sure I'd be able to speak even if I needed to. The sound of sloshing and wood lurching captures our attention as the bridges begin to sink. In a few minutes, only the lonely dock is left. With that, the guide walks towards me.
It is time to leave this place. There is nothing left for you here.
Upon being addressed by him, I rise to my feet. He has a calm look on his face, though there is force behind his serenity. I open my mouth in an attempt to speak. However, I quickly realize I have little idea of what to say. Do I thank him for this? Should I give him my trust? Was our survival because of him, or despite him? Even now I cannot know for certain. And then the fog is removed from my thoughts. After everything that has happened, it becomes clear. I harden my face to match his serious disposition. There is something he is certainly right of. This lake isn't a place to linger. Going round and round in circles will never help. We cannot submit our lives or our minds to sin loss. For better or for ill, there is only one person who can help those once they are within its grasp, the guide. If he were removed, the place would be no safer. What I must do if I truly want to defend others is to keep them from coming here at all. When I return to my village, I intend to make the information acutely known to our elder. For that to happen, we must leave.
Goodbye.
His eyes narrow as he looks over me. I begin to feel uncomfortable under his scrutiny, but for a moment I could swear I noticed him smiling slightly. However, it could easily be a trick of the morning sun. I look away to face Bemelle, not wanting to get caught up in this any longer.
Bemelle, we're leaving.
Roar. He lifts his head at my voice and grins, though his expression quickly sours into a frown. He shows no eagerness to move forward and keeps his distance. He still feels regret that it is only us who are leaving. I empathize greatly with him, knowing that feeling is one we will never escape from, even after this lake is far behind us. However, he manages to weakly smile again.
Those words are music to my ears. Let's set out.
Bemelle walks towards the forest without even acknowledging the guide. That is for the best on the whole. We must get away from here. It saddens me to think Bemelle doesn't even have the strength to become angry, though perhaps he had an epiphany about this lake in the same way I did. We will be able to discuss that on another occasion. Despite the firmness I so intently tried to have, my heart starts to waver. Margaret, Lou, they're both still out there. I wish to give them a proper farewell. I want to do something. My eyes begin to water and I almost turn back around. No, it is done. I need to remember that. They would never want me to ascribe their lives to sin loss. Nothing would disgrace their memory more. I will keep them in my thoughts without allowing the lake to poison me. With my steadfastness truly regained, I march into the light with no hesitation. With a solemn heart, I at last arrive at Hema. They were grateful to see me, for it was a desperate situation indeed. The urgency meant that my mind was occupied with other matters. I worked tirelessly to aid Hema's own guard in forcing back the brigadiers. But during the moments of calm, when the sun went down, I would remember the lake. Bemelle was of great help during the fight. His outwardly positive demeanour lifted the spirits of many around him, but I could see from the shadows in his eyes that he hadn't forgotten what we went through. Nor could I miss the distance that had grown between us. He spoke fewer words to me, and I never gave him many either, yet he seemed stronger than I had seen before. I admired his will. When receiving payment for his services, the guide must give a report for all those who both succeeded and failed to cross the lake. The name and fate of Margaret soon became known in Hema. I added that she was an intelligent, thoughtful person and urged them to show respect for her passing. I hope that one day I'll have the opportunity to go to her hometown to give my own proper respects. His retelling of events had little to say of Lou. I know that it's because he was not meant to be there and was never one to open up, but it still saddens me to face how I never truly got to know who he was. I can only pray that those who cared for him will learn the truth of what happened. I have not heard nor seen the guide since then. He will remain obscure in that realm of fog and fear, a mysterious light off in the distance that is ever out of reach of the real world. I worry about when I must return home to my usual life. It will be difficult to continue as things were before. One thing I know for certain is that my village elder must be told that no one is to cross Sinless again. I've already told the Hema leaders the same. Not a single more person should have to experience what we did. Its darkness will remain with me for the rest of my days. Though so much was lost, I try to believe that our lessons will keep others from suffering the same way and, in the end, something will be gained. Well, fuck me. That little bit of that 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so, and you got lost by yourself, that was a little bit edgy, maybe, possibly. But that's 2 endings, and with approximately 3 to go or 4. Yeah, I'm not doing any more. I'm not confident in my narration skills. If I had a bit more confidence, maybe I could have put some accents into the narration or done something more, but you know what, I'm fine with that. I'm just learning. I'm just I mean, for crying out loud, I'm starting out. I don't have 40 subscribers. I haven't been doing this for long. It's I've done 2 6-month stints full time. If I had more time and resources to be able to put into it, like, you know, with a broken camera, even though it's only me, and you know, there's a lot of people on YouTube that don't have their face on camera a lot, so I'm not really worried about that so much. I could potentially get another one, I don't know when. You know, a broken mouse is something that's going to slow things down a lot, because, well, you're doing Let's Plays. The 3 things you need are a keyboard, a mouse, and a controller for games that need it. So yeah, so if you liked it, I mean, it wasn't, I suppose my reading could have spoiled it, my narration, and I mean, it's free to play on Steam if you want to play it yourselves and not have my accent messing up with it. Sure, download it, have a quick playthrough. I mean, it only took 5 hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops to do it. And I mean, if you read it quicker than me and don't put in any snide remarks, you probably get through it in an hour 45, hour and a half. Yeah, so give it a shot. I mean, it probably helps developers out a little bit, the more people that upload it, and like I said, it is free. Send them some love. Yeah, leave a comment, like I said. If you could hit that subscribe button, it would help out a lot. You know, it is a new channel, and if you hit that subscribe button, you'll getting on the ground floor of this amazing YouTube journey that I'll be taking. Other than that, keep on rolling. Laters.